Sly Cooper, Rise of Vexen. Written by Tatsumari Korisuno. Epilogue. Alarms blared as Vexen bound over a wall, blasts of electricity sizzling from her shock pistol at a few guards. Thanks to Kit's illusions, some guards ran headfirst into the wall she created around the corner. Overhead, Penelope and Bentley took out the security drones, Bentley in his new and improved wheelchair, and Penelope in a jetpack. In the distance, Vexen could hear the roar of Murray's van speeding towards them at full throttle and a mass of police cars following him.
Hurry up, Sly, we're running short on time,
Vexen shouted into her mic, firing bolts and stunning more of the guards. Sly burst through the second-story window with a tiny gold idol in hand. As planned, Sly landed behind Kit's invisible wall just as Bentley and Penelope ran out of ammo.
Do you have it, Sly?
Bentley called, landing in the main square and bringing out his sleep darts to take out the remaining guards.
Do I ever disappoint?
Sly asked as Vexen hopped over the wall and Kit appeared from thin air.
Less banter, more running,
Kit commanded, throwing her hand to the side, laughing as a group of guards slammed into another illusionary brick wall. Sly frisbeed a calling card onto the building they had just robbed for the final touch as everyone piled into the van and sped away.
Cutting it a little close that time, weren't you, Sly? I wouldn't have been able to hold up that spell for much longer,
Kit exclaimed, taking off her yellow scarf and wiping away the sweat.
It all worked out in the end,
Sly said, setting the idol on the dash and kicking up his feet. Vexen crawled into the front bench seat and lay against Sly, holding up her ringed hand.
So what's next for the Sly Fox Syndicate, Mr. Cooper?
Vexen asked, letting her mind wander. Had it been 4 years already? Once they returned to Bentley's laboratory after running away from Winthorpe, Bentley and Penelope destroyed any trace of the time machine they had built. Sure, time travel was fun, but in the wrong hands could spell danger for everyone. They also went back to Kane Island and destroyed everything having to do with the Temporal Tunneler. With a deep investigation of his servers, Bentley found that Darius Hunter used a brutal encryption-busting program to break in and copy his time machine blueprints. Unfortunately, rumors about Leon Rousseau selling copies of the plans began to pop up. The gang hadn't been able to find and stop him for good and squash any new appearances of time machines. Vexen looked up Ivan, and with the payment of an ancient Roman painting taken from a black market art dealer, Phineas outfitted everyone with matching blue and gold clothes. The two thieves exchanged stories and even taught each other a technique while waiting. Kit and Penelope discovered that soon after they left ancient Egypt, Princess Carmelita disappeared from history. Coincidentally, around the same time, she began appearing in the Thievius Raccoonus as Sly Cooper's partner and lover. Mentu seemed to disappear from history altogether, and any mention only labeled him as a traitor. Amelia and Pablo Cantalupa disappeared after Kane Island, but Kit decided to leave them in the past. She still loved them, but her life in Vegas and discovering her past solidified her will to stay with Vexen and Sly. After a year, Kit underwent surgery to remove the implants given to her while working for Muggsy. It took some time, but Vexen was able to use some of the undercover connections she trusted for the operations. Vexen made sure to keep tabs on Darius Hunter. Despite having been the vessel for Clockwerk's consciousness for so long, the Doctor was an innocent bystander. After 2 years, the Doctor woke up with no recollection of what happened after he examined Clockwerk's corpse. A few weeks later, he began working again, though his fellow researchers say he's developed a much more intense temper. Bentley's nasal voice broke Vexen's thoughts.
I found something. It's the Utamara Ruby. It was stolen by Mugshot a couple of weeks ago.
Pass.
Everyone said in unison as they sped along the road.
What about this? My boss will take a city hostage if it doesn't pay him $1.5 billion. He says it's for unfair business standards.
Winthorpe's already on it. I sent him a tip as an anonymous source.
Vexen sighed.
Why would you do that? He's probably loaded. Think of all the money he has stashed away from all his shady deals.
Penelope exclaimed as Sly laughed and reached back to pat her on the shoulder.
Relax, Penelope. Don't forget, you can take the girl out of law enforcement, but you can't take the law enforcement out of the girl.
He chuckled, dropping his hand across Vexen's waist. Bentley huffed and crossed his arms when Kit saw a new report on his laptop.
Who's Rajan?
She asked. Bentley sat up and began looking over the news report, reading it aloud.
The formerly reformed spice trader and thief known as Rajan stole a large sapphire. Its estimated worth is $16.7 million. Authorities say it is virtually impossible to find where he has taken the gem, and rumors abound that he plans to use it to start up his illegal spice trading once again.
Vexen tilted her head back as Sly looked down at her. Murray looked up into his rearview mirror at Kit and Penelope, who were all smiling. Everyone could feel the excitement in the van as Sly sat up straighter.
Impossible to find, eh? I think that'll suit us just fine.
Sly smirked as Murray pulled the handbrake and drifted around a corner, aiming them back for Paris and their home base hideout. Mentu struggled to hide, eventually taking cover in a cave near the pyramids he had been credited for designing not 1 week prior. His rage still burned hot. His eyes had become bloodshot as he hadn't slept and were caked with sand. The thought of Carmelita being taken away by a lowly thief drove him to madness. What was the appeal of loving a thief? If that's what it took to capture her heart, why did she reject him when she found out about his stealing from the people? Was it not the same?
I will find out how to become that future me. I will live on and haunt the Cooper family for as long as I draw breath,
he growled to himself. His immense intellect would allow him to find the secret to immortality, but he needed time, a commodity he knew he did not have. If he were to have any chance of finding that secret, he would need to get to his private laboratory under the pyramids. It was there that he performed his most gruesome experiments. They were so inhumane that he would be executed on the spot if anyone ever heard rumor of them. As night fell, people and the guards around the pyramid thinned, allowing him to slip unnoticed through the top of the unfinished monument and down into his lab. The stale smell of dried blood greeted him as he engaged his water wheels to make his lights glow. As the light increased, he found a plate of metal with 2 large glowing orbs sitting on one of his benches, and a pair of metal legs and talons. As he neared the plate, a thin light shot out from it, sweeping over his entire body. When it finished, a ghostly image of Clockwerk appeared from one of the orbs, which began to speak.
I remember creating this place many years before I became the Pharaoh's advisor. I even convinced the fool to build his tomb over it to keep it hidden. To this day, in my future, not even the Coopers have found it. If you hear this message, we have failed to kill Sly Cooper once again. This will be the 8th time I have attempted his demise. Despite my best efforts, and even applying chaos theory, it seems I cannot account for every possibility. You must settle for haunting the Cooper line for all time instead. I would give you what you need and bid you to go after the Cooper now, but technology in this time is limited and rudimentary, and so I am giving you 2 gifts. The first are my talons. made from a scarce blend of metals called Damascene adamantium. They are sharp enough to cut a tree in one swing, and will never dull. I also give you the hate chip from which this message is playing. Take it and place it on your body. It will transform your hate and jealousy of the Coopers into healing energy, making you immortal. Additionally, I will download all the information you need to know about the future in your mind. Attach these talons however you can, as medical science is a very crude thing during this time, but you will heal very quickly through the power of the hate chip. Bide your time. Haunt the Coopers. And wait for the time of Sly Cooper's father, Connor Cooper. Kill him, and it will set in motion the events allowing you to return through time and attempt to kill Slytoon and Common Cooper once again. Remember the events that have happened here, as they will assist your planning in the future.
When the message finished, the image of Clockwerk sunk back into the chip. Mentu reached out for it almost reverently, turning it over so the orbs faced away from his body while he brought it to his chest. When it was within a few inches of his feathers, millions of thread-like wires shot out, burrowing through his flesh into every muscle and sinew. Images of Coopers he had never heard of and events that had yet to take place flashed through his mind like a cold liquid. When it finally ended, Mentu dropped his wings and looked up to the ceiling. He could feel the energy pulsing through his body, giving him vitality and fortitude. All other emotions seemed to melt away, leaving only his hate and jealousy of the House Cooper. As he opened his eyes, Mentu made note that a light flared from them, lighting everywhere he looked with a dull yellow glow. Turning his attention back to the talons, Mentu reached for a nearby cutting instrument and began to sharpen it, honing it to a razor's edge. With one swing, he separated his legs from him. The pain was excruciating, but it didn't seem to matter as he pulled the legs over to him, lining up his stumps with the sockets of the new legs. Fibrous wires sprouted from his bleeding stumps and pulled the cold metal legs to him as another wave of excruciating pain blazed through his body. It settled within moments as the healing energy of the hate chip took over. When the pain calmed to a dull ache, Mentu stood, marveling at the precision with which these prostheses were made. He realized that his lab would not be sufficient to complete his mechanical transformation, and so set out with purpose, closing the door and striding out of the pyramid with livid confidence. As he walked by the slave encampment, a guard heard his hard, hollow steps, ordering him to halt and identify himself. As the owl turned to face him, the guard's eyes widened, tightening his grip on his spear. "Mentu, by order of the Pharaoh, you are to be executed!" the soldier bellowed, running at the owl.
My name isn't Mentu any longer.
The owl swept his talons across the soldier, staring at them in prideful satisfaction as he could not feel the slightest bit of resistance.
I am Clockwerk.
He growled, watching with sick pleasure as the guard fell apart in a bloody heap before spreading his wings and taking to the skies.
You'll never be rid of me, Cooper. I will eclipse your family one day. Our Clockwerk is superior.